Let me ask you something. Have you ever reached the end of your day completely exhausted and asked yourself, what did I actually get done today? Have you ever looked back at a week, a month, even a year, and felt that uncomfortable realization that you were busy but not productive, that your time was filled, but your life didn't move forward? If you have, you're not alone. I've met thousands of people, high performers, professionals, entrepreneurs, parents, leaders who are drowning in activity and starving for results. They're running fast, but getting nowhere. Waking up stressed, reacting to everything, chasing fires instead of building dreams. And here's what I always tell them. Your day is either designed or it's dictated. If you don't take control of your day before the world does, you'll spend the next 16 hours reacting to other people's agendas. You'll answer their emails, you'll fight their urgencies, you'll dance to their music, and by the time you get a moment to breathe, your best energy will be gone. But there's a better way, and in this video, I'm going to teach it to you. I'll show you how to reclaim your mornings, how to plan your day while the rest of the world is still asleep, and most importantly, how to set yourself up for focus, clarity, and momentum before the chaos begins. Because here's the truth. Winners start early. They don't wait to be pulled into motion, they move first. They don't wait to be told what matters, they decide it in advance. And they don't live by chance, they live by design. Let me take you back to when I first learned this. I was young, ambitious, and desperate to change my life. I was working long hours, saying yes to everything, answering calls, taking meetings, chasing opportunities. And yet, I wasn't making progress. I was spinning my wheels. I was constantly behind. One day, I had a mentor ask me a simple question that changed everything. He said, "Brian, when do you think your day actually begins?" I said, "Well, I guess when I wake up." He smiled and said, "That's your first mistake. Your day doesn't start when your alarm goes off. It starts when you decide what matters." He was right. From that moment on, I began waking up earlier, not just to be productive, but to think, to plan, to prepare, to align my time with my values, not with distractions. And within weeks, my entire life began to shift because I wasn't reacting anymore. I was leading. I wasn't being pulled in a dozen directions. I was pulling myself in one. You see, when you plan your day before the world wakes up, you do more than just get a head start. You reclaim your most precious resource, your attention. In the early hours of the morning, the noise is quiet. There are no texts to answer, no fires to put out, no demands to respond to, just you and your mind. And in that silence, you gain clarity. In that space, you gain leverage. In that stillness, you make powerful decisions. Decisions most people don't even start thinking about until noon. That's the edge. The world is full of talented people who never move forward because they live in constant reaction. They wake up late, they rush, they scramble, and by the time they catch their breath, the day is already gone. But if you want to become unstoppable, if you want to operate at a world-class level, you need to own the first hour of your day like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. So here's what you'll learn in this video. You'll learn why the first 30 minutes of your morning are more valuable than the next 12 hours. You'll discover how to design a morning routine that protects your time, clarifies your goals, and sets your mind for victory. You'll learn how to create momentum before the world even knows you're awake. And most of all, you'll learn how to live by decision, not by default. Because discipline doesn't start with grit. It starts with structure. And that structure begins when the rest of the world is still asleep. Now that you understand why the early morning hours are sacred, let me show you how to use them. Because it's not just about waking up early, it's about what you do with that time. Waking up at 5 a.m. means nothing if you immediately check your phone, scroll through notifications, and open yourself up to the chaos of the outside world. Early rising without intention is just earlier distraction. The power is in the ritual, a repeatable system that aligns your energy, your priorities, and your mindset before anything else has a chance to interfere. Think of it as the mental armor you put on before stepping into the battlefield of your day. Without it, you're exposed, you're reactive, you're soft, but with it, you lead. I've studied the routines of the most successful people on earth, top CEOs, elite athletes, world-class thinkers. And here's the pattern. They all have a sacred space in the morning where they protect their focus, clarify their goals, and rehearse their values. And they do it before the world can take it from them. Let me walk you through how I structure mine and how you can build yours. The first 10 minutes of your morning are the reset button for your mind. Before anything else, I sit quietly. No music, no noise, no input, just breath, stillness, awareness. I ask myself 3 questions. What am I grateful for? What do I want most today? Who do I want to be while I do it? These 3 questions do something powerful. Gratitude grounds me. Clarity pulls me forward. And identity reminds me to behave like my future self, not my tired self. You can do this anywhere. You don't need candles, incense, or a perfect space. You just need a commitment to start your day in alignment, not reaction. Next, I take out my planner or a blank sheet of paper and I list my top 3 priorities for the day. Not 10, not 20, just 3. 3 tasks that, if completed, would move my life forward. Not busy work, not urgent noise, important mission-aligned work. This is what I call the rule of 3. Because success isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters. And in a distracted world, you need limits. You need clarity. And you need focus. After I identify those 3 goals, I schedule them. Not just sometime today, I assign them a time block. Why? Because if it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. Hoping to get around to it is a fantasy. Winners don't hope. They decide, and that calendar, that structure, becomes the backbone of my discipline. I guard my peak hours like a hawk. I don't take meetings, I don't answer messages, I don't explain myself. Those hours are for deep work, the kind that actually moves my business, my legacy, and my life forward. You have to treat your mornings like a sacred appointment with your future, because that's what they are. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Brian, I'm not a morning person. Let me say this gently. That belief is optional. You weren't born a night owl. You trained yourself to be one. And you can train yourself to be something better. Start small, wake up 30 minutes earlier, resist the urge to touch your phone. Sit in silence, plan your 3 priorities, breathe, align, and watch what happens to your energy, your decisions, your results. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Because your future isn't built in grand moments, it's built in early mornings. Before the emails, before the chaos, before the world wakes up. If you don't control your morning will control you. And when that happens, the rest of your day follows the same pattern. You start behind, you rush, you skip what matters, you answer to everyone else's demands before you even check in with your own priorities. And by noon, your energy is spent on things that don't move your life forward. This is how most people live, not because they want to, but because no one ever taught them how to lead their day. So they chase time, they chase tasks. But no matter how hard they run, time keeps slipping away. I want to teach you how to reverse that. How to go from chasing time to commanding it. From feeling like you're always behind to being ahead of the game before the world even gets out of bed. Because once you experience what it feels like to own your morning, you'll never want to go back. You see, every minute before the world wakes up is worth 10 after it does. Why? Because the early morning isn't just quieter, it's cleaner. Your brain isn't cluttered yet. Your focus isn't fractured yet. Your energy hasn't been pulled in a dozen directions. In those early hours, you're closer to your real self, not the reactive, distracted, overstimulated version of you that the world tries to turn you into. And when you tap into that version, the focused one, the calm one, the powerful one, you don't just plan your day. You shape your life. You think deeper. You make better decisions. You act from vision, not emotion. and the quality of your day and eventually your results begins to change dramatically. Let me tell you something I've never said lightly. How you use your first hour determines how you live your life. If you use it to scroll through nonsense, you train your brain to be reactive. If you use it to answer other people's problems, you become addicted to urgency. If you use it to avoid decisions, you lose control before the day even begins. But if you use that hour to lead yourself, to plan, to think, to breathe, to direct your energy toward what matters most, then you build momentum before you even leave your house. That's not just productivity. That's power. And the world respects people who move with power. Now here's something personal. In the early stages of my career, I wasn't naturally focused. I had ambition, yes, but I was easily distracted, easily overwhelmed. I was constantly busy, but nothing was truly progressing. It wasn't until I committed to owning my mornings that everything changed. The more I practiced this discipline, the more I began to see a pattern. I closed deals before others even started their day. I made better financial decisions with a clearer mind. I wrote books, built programs, launched businesses, all from a place of alignment, not reaction. That's what changed my results. Not luck, not motivation, not intensity. Clarity, routine, ownership, and all of it started with how I spent my mornings. You have the same opportunity. Right now, no matter your background, no matter your habits, no matter how chaotic your life feels today, you can decide, my time matters, my goals matter, my energy matters. And you can build a morning routine that reflects that decision, because in the end, this isn't about waking up early. It's about waking up with purpose and protecting that purpose before the world tries to steal it. If you don't control your morning will control you. And once that happens, the rest of your day follows the same chaotic pattern. You wake up, grab your phone, check messages, get hit with problems, and from that point on, you're in reaction mode. The clock owns you. Other people's problems become your focus. The day slips from your fingers before you even realize what happened. You become a passenger in your own life. This is how most people live, not because they want to, but because they don't know how to reclaim their time. They wake up tired, mentally cluttered, and overwhelmed because they never made the decision to take back their mornings to protect the only quiet, distraction-free window they truly have. And so, instead of creating a life by design, they survive one day at a time, and each day looks just like the last. I'm telling you this because I lived it. For years, I started my day in reaction. I thought being busy meant I was being productive. I thought working longer hours meant I was committed. I thought that jumping from task to task meant I was disciplined, but I was wrong. What I was doing was burning myself out. I was pouring energy into other people's priorities before I ever stopped to define my own. And I began to notice something terrifying. I was running fast, but I wasn't getting anywhere. Until one day, I made a change. I decided that no matter what was happening in my life or business, I would take the first hour of my day for myself to think, to plan, to align, to lead. And the difference was instant. You see, when you give yourself the first hour before the phone rings, before the emails flood in, before the meetings start, you're giving yourself the clearest space of the day. Your mind is quieter. Your energy is fresh. Your environment hasn't been hijacked by the world yet. You're free, even if just for 60 minutes, to lead with intention. And what you do with that window sets the tone for everything that follows. If you use it well, your entire day opens up. If you waste it, your entire day gets hijacked. I began to notice that when I started my mornings with clarity, I made faster decisions. I didn't second guess myself. I wasn't pulled into unimportant tasks. My team noticed the difference. My business grew. But more importantly, I felt in control again. I wasn't scrambling, I was steering. Most people live in survival mode, but you can live in strategy. You can be the kind of person who begins the day with clarity and ends it with confidence. And it starts with a single decision. I will no longer let my mornings happen by accident. That one decision changes everything. It changes how you wake up, how you prepare, how you execute, because the truth is this: if you win the morning, you win the day. And if you string together enough winning days, you win the year. That's how real transformation happens. Not in one big leap, but in consistent, intentional action before the world wakes up. Now let me be very clear. This isn't about becoming some kind of productivity robot. It's not about waking up at 4 a.m. just to post about it online. It's not about hustle culture. It's about ownership. Ownership of your thoughts, ownership of your time, ownership of your energy. It's about refusing to let the noise of the world drown out the sound of your own direction. It's about building a private space in your life every single morning where no one gets to interrupt you, where your goals matter more than your inbox, where your priorities come before other people's opinions. And that space, it becomes sacred. It becomes a source of strength you can return to every single day, no matter what life throws at you. Let the world sleep. Let them delay. Let them start their days chasing urgency and reacting to drama. You don't have to live that way anymore. You can take control. You can begin differently. And that shift, as quiet and simple as it seems, will echo into every area of your life. It will sharpen your thinking. It will elevate your performance. It will deepen your confidence. Not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger before the world ever began. People often ask me, Brian, what's the secret to freedom? How do I live life on my own terms? And I always give them the same answer, even if they don't want to hear it. Freedom is not found in motivation. It's built through discipline. The people who live with the most freedom aren't the ones who wait for inspiration or the perfect moment. They're the ones who show up early, every day, without needing to be convinced. They're the ones who decide what their day will look like before anyone else has the chance to shape it for them. Freedom doesn't come from escaping responsibility. It comes from taking full ownership of it. And that ownership begins in the early morning when no one's watching, when there's no applause, no feedback, no urgency, just a silent decision to lead. That's what separates winners from everyone else. Most people give their best energy to their problems. High performers give their best energy to their priorities. They don't stumble into the day and hope for productivity. They create it before the day begins. And that's the advantage. That's the leverage. When you consistently train your mind and body to act from intention, not emotion, your life begins to reflect that internal structure. Let me give you something practical now. I want you to think of your morning routine like a runway. Every plane, no matter how powerful, needs a stretch of ground to build speed, align its direction, and lift off. That's what your early morning does for you. It gives you that clear space to gain altitude before you encounter turbulence. And just like a plane, if you try to take off without that runway, you'll never leave the ground. You'll be stuck in loops. Distracted, unfocused, low altitude living. But if you treat your morning as your personal runway, you'll rise. You'll create speed. You'll gain height while everyone else is still on the ground trying to figure out what to do next. This is why I guard my mornings ruthlessly. I don't give that time away, not to meetings, not to notifications, not even to small talk. Because I know what that time represents. It's where my next level gets built. It's where I reconnect with my vision. It's where I rehearse the identity I'm committed to becoming. You see, repetition isn't just how habits are built, it's how character is formed. And when you repeat a powerful morning routine consistently, it stops being a routine and starts becoming who you are. Over time, something incredible begins to happen. Your mornings stop being about just productivity. They become sacred. They become your edge. The people around you notice that you don't operate like everyone else. You think more clearly. You speak with more certainty. You walk with more purpose. And that energy, it becomes magnetic. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're rooted. Because you're centered before the world even has a chance to shake you. Here's what most people don't understand. When you delay discipline, you delay your results. Every time you hit snooze, every time you check your phone before your mind is awake, every time you say, I'll figure it out later, you reinforce a message to yourself that your direction can wait. And after enough repetition, you begin to believe it. You begin to live it. You begin to tolerate a life that looks nothing like what you're capable of. But that ends now. You don't need another month of chaos to make a change. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. All you need to do is wake up earlier and own the first hour. That's it. Start there and watch how everything else starts to align. Because once your mornings belong to you, your life starts to reflect that power. And once you taste what it feels like to lead your time, you'll never go back to react. One of the most underestimated forms of power in life is the quiet confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself. Not the big promises, but the small, invisible ones. The ones no one sees. Like waking up when you said you would. Like planning your day before anyone else speaks into it. Like choosing your top priorities instead of chasing every distraction. These small wins, they compound. Day after day, week after week. And eventually, they create something that no amount of external motivation can give you: self-respect. Let me tell you something I've seen over and over again with clients, executives, athletes, and even myself. The people who are the most consistent with their morning routines are the ones who are the most calm under pressure. Why? Because they've trained their nervous system to operate from stability, not emotion. They're not thrown off by a tough phone call. They're not derailed by a sudden demand. They have a baseline, a foundation that was already set before the chaos began. That's what the morning does for you. It doesn't just give you time, it gives you psychological leverage. It makes you harder to shake, stronger under stress, more composed when others panic. And this isn't just theory. Neuroscience confirms it. When you wake up and immediately take action on your own priorities, by your own design, you generate clarity chemicals in your brain. Dopamine rises. Cortisol levels stabilize. Your emotional baseline gets set by you, not by your environment. And as a result, you make better decisions. You feel less reactive. You don't need to chase clarity because you created it when the rest of the world was still asleep. Let me ask you something. What would happen if, for the next 30 days, you owned your morning completely? No negotiation. No snooze. No reaction, just clarity, just direction, just action. What would happen to your business, your energy, your mood, your discipline? I've seen people completely change their lives, not by adding 10 hours of work, not by finding some secret shortcut, but by mastering the first hour of the day. It doesn't just make you productive, it makes you powerful, quietly, consistently, permanently. And here's the real reward. Eventually, people around you start asking questions. They notice you don't get thrown off easily. They notice you walk with more calm. You're not rushed. You're not scattered. You're not trying to keep up because you've already taken the lead. That's the invisible strength you carry when you begin your day with intention. And once it becomes part of who you are, it never leaves. There's a truth I've come to believe with absolute certainty. The person you become before the world even wakes up is the person who will run the world when it does. Mornings are not just a productivity hack, they are a spiritual discipline, a mental reset, a statement of identity. Every time you wake up before the noise, before the pressure, before the performance, and lead your life with clarity, you reinforce something that becomes impossible to fake. I am in control of me. That is the difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs wait for the world to tell them what the day will look like. Professionals decide it before anyone else has a chance to influence it. I'm not just talking about CEOs or entrepreneurs. I've worked with teachers, athletes, mothers, doctors, students, and the pattern is always the same. Those who take command of their mornings take command of their future, because when you lead the first hour, the next 10 begin to follow your rhythm, not the other way around. Now, I want you to notice something. This entire routine, waking up early, journaling, setting your priorities, planning your day, none of it is about being perfect. It's not about being robotic. It's about being deliberate. You don't have to be flawless. You just have to be honest. You don't need to win every morning. You just need to stop losing them by default. You need to show up. Even if it's messy, even if it's clumsy, even if you didn't sleep well, you show up. Because that act alone, showing up early with intention, is a victory, a real one. Let me tell you something personal. There were seasons in my life where everything felt uncertain. Business was unpredictable. Life was chaotic. My thoughts were scattered. But the one thing I never stopped doing was owning my morning. And that single act became the anchor that kept me steady in the middle of storms. The world doesn't get to decide how your day feels, you do. But only if you claim it before the noise arrives. If you wait until the world wakes up to find peace, you'll never have it. But if you find peace in the stillness of morning, you'll carry it with you into everything else. People think confidence is something you build in public. It's not. Confidence is built in private, in quiet mornings, in early routines, in small, invisible decisions that compound into strength. The way you breathe, the way you think, the way you sit alone with your priorities before anyone else gets a piece of your time, that's what makes you powerful. That's what builds an identity of consistency and self-respect that no one can take from you. Now listen carefully. If you want this to last, if you want this to become a permanent part of your life, you have to stop relying on motivation, because there will be days you don't feel like it. Days you wake up tired, days your schedule feels heavier than usual. But those are the days that define you, not because they're perfect, but because you chose to stay aligned. You chose to lead yourself even when it wasn't comfortable. And that repetition, that's what forges character. From this point forward, I want you to stop waiting to feel ready. Stop hoping that someday the world will slow down. It won't, but you don't need it to. Because you've built something more powerful, a system that keeps you grounded, clear, and consistent before the rest of the world even opens its eyes. Let me leave you with this. If you don't lead the first hour of your day, you'll spend the next 23 trying to catch up. You'll be late, not on the clock, but in your mind. You'll be behind, not in time, but in power. And no matter how fast you move, you'll never feel ahead. That's what happens when you give your mornings away. When you surrender your clarity, your priorities, your energy before the day even begins. But the good news? You don't have to live that way anymore. You can take it all back, quietly, powerfully. Starting tomorrow morning. You see, the strongest people in the world aren't loud about it. They don't announce their routines. They don't post their 5 a.m. alarm on social media. They don't explain why they're unavailable at certain hours. They just execute consistently, quietly, with precision. They move like the day already belongs to them because it does. They're not reacting to emails. They're not chasing notifications. They're not pulled by the wind. They're rooted, anchored, clear. And it shows. Not because they try to impress anyone, but because true power never needs to. That's what you build when you own your morning. You build a foundation of peace in a chaotic world. You build momentum when others are still sleeping. You build control in a culture of reactivity. You build identity one small, powerful decision at a time. And eventually, those decisions stack up. They become a story, a reputation, a legacy. Not the kind of legacy written in headlines, the kind written in how you live, how you lead, how you carry yourself before anyone is watching. So, here's what I want from you. Tomorrow, wake up before the world does. Not because I said so, not because it sounds impressive, but because you made a decision that your life matters enough to lead it before it leads you. Sit in silence. Ask yourself who you want to be. Write down your top 3 priorities, schedule them. Move your body, clear your mind, and then execute. Don't wait for perfect. Don't wait to feel ready. Just begin. 1 hour. That's all it takes. 1 hour to shift the entire rhythm of your life. 1 hour to reset your direction. 1 hour to step into the identity of the person you've been trying to become. It starts with a decision, and that decision starts before the world wakes up. Own that hour, and the rest will follow.